T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with
Happy Easters! Oh, yeah. You're now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. Happy Easter! Woo! I am so excited for today's episode, man, but it's Sunday. It's Easter. Holy Spirit is with me today. What is good? If this is your first time tapping in, welcome. Hope your Sunday's going great. Hope it's as beautiful as mine's been today. Saw my mom. God bless her soul. I've seen her. She got to hang out with the alpacas. But yeah, man, good day so far. And I feel like it's going to end properly with such an amazing podcast. But anyway, shout out to all my early birds. If you're tapping in on this beautiful holiday, man, thank you so much. If this is your first time tapping in, hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. That way you're on top of every single podcast that I drop here on the Trap Talk with MJ podcast YouTube channel. And then hit that like button. It really helps me, helps the guest, helps the whole YouTube channel in general if you hit that like button. Especially if you like what you're hearing. If you like these episodes, hit that like button, okay? Fuck me. Like, just hit the like button if you like what you're hearing. Really takes this, takes what I'm doing far. So I appreciate it. All the love and support, mad love. Thank you guys so much. But for the freshest and bestest rodents delivered to your doorstep, only one place I go to, and that's Cold Blooded Cafe. $30 flat rate shipping, day one pinks, mammoth rats to your doorstep. Shout out to Stephen Cush and Desiree Manat over at Cold Blooded Cafe. Shout out to Sim Container, John and Alex, really living up to what they're all about, man. I'm telling you, these eggs inside of a sim box is the way to go. I have multiple species hatching out of sim boxes, and I'm not the only one, man. Shout out to John and Alex over at Sim Container. Thank you for all the love and support. Shout out to Alex, my bad. Jesus, I'm all over the place. Stephen and Ashley over at Focus Cube Habitats, Flex in Texas, all day, every day. PVC built enclosures. They're doing things different, man. They got their own thing going on, so make sure you go on Instagram and check them out and go to their website. Shout out to Jesse and the entire Freedom Breeder crew. #1 stainless steel racks built in the United States. The truth since the 90s. Shout out to Jesse and the entire Freedom Breeder crew. Shout out to my big dog, always evolving pythons. Miguel Garcia making big moves. Was in Mexico for I don't know how many days, and now he's on his way to Texas. Just I don't know what this guy has planned up his sleeve. This guy's just an animal, nonstop moving, nonstop grinding. This is why he motivates me and inspires not only myself but many other people in the game. So make sure you go follow him on Instagram. Make sure you go check him out on YouTube. Shout out to the big dog. Shout out to the whole AEP family. Shout out to my boy Alan at Amazing Basins. If you're into the arboreal snakes like the basins, I'm telling you right now, you're gonna want to go to Instagram and follow my boy right now. He has a lot of great things going on with these amazing species, and he's also got some ball python stuff dialed in this year. Go check him out. Shout out to my big dog Alan at Amazing Basins. Shout out to Blake over at Stewart Designs, really helping people progress their brand into that professional level of branding. Dude, this guy's a real deal. He's helped Kabelka out, Garrett Hartle, Desiree, you name it. Big names in the game that this guy's already worked with and is working with to this day. So shout out to Blake Stewart. And then, if you're in that position where you want to really invest in your brand and yourself, go to SD Identity on Instagram and go to his website, sdidentity.com. Shout out to Blake Stewart. And then shout out to the OG, triple, Mark Bailey, Reptiles. My boy Mark Bailey picked up the, I wasn't going to accept any more sponsorships this year. I feel bad. I told a lot of people I'm sorry, but I'm all booked up for this year. But I'm not going to say no to a legend like this. Had a great time with this guy at Tinley, and that's why you should be going to Tinley. Shout out to Mark Bailey. I appreciate all your love and support, man. And honestly, to call you as a friend really means a lot. So thank you for your support. And it's all because I go to shows like NARBC and whatnot. I met Mark Bailey at Tinley, NARBC. So shout out to Bob Ashley and Brian Potter for throwing one of the most amazing reptile shows that you could possibly go to, which is linking over to the #1 West Coast show, Reptile Super Show, thrown by Rami. So make sure you guys can go to these shows are so important, I feel like, especially if you're really wanting to meet people and start making moves, the right kind of moves, got to go to these shows. So shout out to those guys for leading the industry, creating such an amazing event for us, all of us herpers to get together and, chop it up with, man. So shout out to Rami, shout out to Bob Ashley, shout out to Brian Potter, and then shout out to Phil Goss, US Art. Let's go. Head over to YouTube, subscribe to their new YouTube channel, and let's stay updated on what's happening with these legislations. Phil Goss is this amazing guy, man. He's literally does everything he does everything he possibly can to keep us updated, and he does a good job of doing it. So make sure you guys go down to the link below, support US Arc, and if you have no idea what US Arc is, now's your time to read up on it, okay? Because it's never too late, and I'm telling you right now, you don't want to wait until it's too late, because then it's not going to be good. So shout out to anyone who supports US Arc. You guys are real ones. If you ever want to follow what I got going on, my passion and whatnot, hit me up on Instagram or go follow me on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram. I post all my snakes, all my productions, what's for sale, what I hold back, all that stuff. mjexoticscartal with an A, not an E. And then also go follow the podcast's Instagram page as well, Trap Talk with MJ Podcast. Shout out to my Twitch viewers. I see the Twitch viewers going up. If you have Twitch, subscribe to my channel on Twitch. If you like to support this channel more than a subscription or a comment or a like, which I take any of those, don't get me wrong, I love them. But if you guys out there want to support this channel more than that, you can send me a super chat. If you have any questions for my man Bryan, or if there's a certain topic you want to cover, more importantly, that's going to get, I'll see it in a super chat, 110%. So throw a super chat out there, and I got you. That gets donated to US Arc, so it's a win-win. And then any other donation you can send over to PayPal, Exotics Cartel with an A, not an E. Just drop a note. And yeah, much love and support to all my kind of any ounce of support I get. I'm telling you, I don't feel like I'm worthy of it, but it's growing, and I appreciate it so much. So thank you out there. If you're new to this channel and you're fucking with me tough, thank you so much. It's about to get better. I can tell you that much. I got so much in store, and my Patreon family knows. Okay, so shout out to my Patreon family. If you out there want to become more a part of this podcast, more than what you see, if you want to get more behind the scenes, if you want to tap into the Trap family and be a part of a Discord, which puts you tap into a whole bunch of different worlds, I'm telling you right now. But if you want to be a part of a fucking movement that's growing by the day, I suggest you head down to the link below and click on the Trap Talk Patreon link and join the family today. As soon as you join, you get messaged a Discord link, and then you tap into the whole family. We get together every Sunday on a Zoom call, and we just really fuck with each other, man. So I gotta say, if you're a Trapper, Patreon member, and you're tapping in right now, happy Easter. I love you. Thank you so much for your love and support, and I will see you after this episode. Oh, damn right. We tap in right after this episode, 6 o'clock, Trap Talk Zoom session, man. But what is good with all the early birds? Who is here spending their Easters with the real ones? The General in the building. What's up, General? Thanks for tapping in. Trap Talk family member all day, every day. The homegirl Chantel in the building. Trap Talk family member all day, every day. Heathen, what is good, player? Deviant Glass, what is good? Trap Talk family member all day. Wes Carter, what is good, Wes? Thanks for tapping in. Wise Guy, what is good, Wise Guy? Thanks for tapping in. The big homie Mike, 1776 Exotics. Thanks for tapping in, player. Happy Easter. The homie Clutch, what is good? New Trap Patreon family member all day, every day. Thanks for tapping in. Appreciate you. Tradesman Exotics. Happy Easter, player. Thanks for tapping in. Matthew Summers. Man, I got to say, this guy's consistent. He has a new chick. and he's still a part of the trap. He doesn't let anything get in his way. It's my boy right here. Happy Easter, Matt. You're my boy, Blue. Appreciate you tapping in. Let's see. Oh, we got fucking UK in the building. Central Bullies. What is good, player? Thanks for tapping in. Travis F. What up, Travis F? Julio Fulio. What is good? Trap Talk family member all day, every day. Eric's Morph Factory. What is good, player? British Columbia Balls. You got Canada in the building. What is good? Austin. What's up, player? I haven't seen you in a minute. Thanks for tapping in, Austin. I appreciate you. And we're going to end it with the homie Silver Cash. All right, Silver Cash. I guarantee this fool's cooking pizzas right now. And if he's not, I guarantee he's eating pizza. Either way. So, all right, guys, let's get this fucking session on the road here. I'm so excited because, lately since I've been having these Sunday podcasts, this is all about the lizards, or geckos, whatever kind of, species of lizards I like to cover on Sundays. This guy has come highly recommended by so many people that I look up to in the game. So this was already going to be a done deal. I'm glad that I was able to book him a lot sooner than I thought I was going to be able to, because he's tapping in right here, right now from the mountains of North Carolina, I believe he said. But we're all good. Connection's good. It's my boy Bryan. Suson. Fuck. God, I even practiced that to make sure I didn't fuck it up. Suson of Sundown Reptiles. What is good, player?
Not much, man. I'm doing well. Thanks a lot for having me on. And yeah, a quick disclaimer about that mountain thing. The internet is a little spotty, so bear with me, guys. I apologize if it does cut out, and I'll jump right back in. So,
bro, as long as the audio is good, we're good, and I think we're gonna be all right. So we'll figure it out. But Bryan, happy Easter, happy Sunday. How's everything on your end? How you living?
Things are good. Happy Easter to everybody. Life is good. Kind of spent the day out building a disc golf course and splitting wood. So, wow. And that was after collecting some gecko eggs. So it was a good day.
Nice. So you definitely have you put your work in on top of the fun work, which is all fun. I feel like eggs is fun, and then I'm not gonna listen. I'm so sore with disc golf because I suck at it, and I know I have homies who are really good at it, and I hate being a part of a group where they're all good and I'm not, and yeah. And the thing is, and these guys been doing it throughout periods of years. They have their bag, they have all their different, it's they're really about it. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? I'm like, teach me. And they really can't. And I'm anyways, that's sick. So disc golfing I think is really awesome. San Diego has a couple really cool courses. I don't know if you've ever been to San Diego before, but
yeah, it's sweet. It's one of those things you really got to put in the work to be good at it. But anybody can go out and have fun. So
right,
it's a good time.
So North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
How you like it? How long have you been out there for? Are you born and raised? How long have you been selling?
I'm coming up on 7 years now. I actually grew up an hour north of Tinley. So right up by the border of Wisconsin, Illinois, up in northern Illinois. But I kind of had enough of the flatlands and visited a buddy down here, and it's just the herping's amazing, the hiking's amazing, the pace of life is a lot slower, and it's just a good time. So it was a no-brainer for me to move down here, especially because I was able to bring the animals and kind of commit to that a little bit more. So it's been good.
I gotta say, one of the things I always get excited about when I have a guest on is when I know that they have their hands tapped into more than one species, which is definitely what seems to be what you're all about. But I'm curious on what that one species was that kind of led to everything that you have today. What's the foundation species you work with?
That's a tough call because I think, a lot of us start out as kids and we're interested, we get hooked just by seeing whatever you go. For me, since I was a baby, before I could even talk, my family was going to Kona, Hawaii. And so when I went out to Hawaii, there was a guy who worked at the pool who kind of took me under his wing and just showed me different geckos and anoles, all these invasives that were out there. But that really, I think, hooked me. And since I was a kid, I've had all these books, about everything, like a lot of the viewers. And it kind of just started out with, I wanted to have something of everything. And then it kind of started to refine. I was gecko heavy, and then there was a point early on, back towards the end of high school, going into college, where I just went all chondros. And that was back in the day when, you know, Maxwell, when you guys were having that talk the other day, he was talking about the Chondro web. I was one of those people on the Chondro web back in the day.
No way.
That ages me a little bit, but it was, yeah, I went heavy Chondros and then kind of just started getting back into geckos once I was more stable in my location. So.
Hey, do me a favor, Brian. It might fix real quick. Exit out. Wait, hold on. Say something.
Yep. Hello.
Okay, now we're good. Actually, literally, I was gonna have you leave and come back in, but your connection just cleared out right when I was break for it. So we're good now. All right, perfect. Okay, now you know it's funny you said that because you're like, okay, you know, you just had the chondro guy of all chondro guys on your show, so we're not talking about chondros, but you know that's not the case. I'm gonna have to want to tap in a little bit more about what your experience is with the chondros, because I mean, was that something that was carrying your passion for a good amount of years and something you left behind at some point? Or like, let's kind of talk about what you like, how deep you were with the chondros, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it was the only thing I kept. It got to the point where it was all chondros. You know, I think my story with them was a little bit of heartbreak. That was back when nobody knew about Nido and a lot of people were losing, you know, collections. And it essentially was an easy species for me to work with just because I was doing a lot of travel, which snakes are super easy. You know, if you're doing a lot of travel, lizards are like the last thing that you want. But snakes are great, as you know, in that respect. But yeah, I mean, I was able to kind of amass a really nice collection, a lot of Greg's stuff. I mean, I went to his place to pick up some animals, and yeah, but it didn't end well, and I ended up losing some of my animals, which was really unfortunate. And kind of, you know, a lot of people got real sour on chondros for a while, and it was because things would pop up with these unknown RIs. You have a snake for 6 years, all of a sudden you pair it up and something happens, and it's like, so that was kind of a heartbreaker. But I ended up, you know, kind of like doing some breeding loans with some folks and kept a handful of animals that I raised up since they were babies that I had produced, and I still have them with me to this day. And they're producing punches now. But yeah, it was a fun, and you know, chondros, they can be tricky. But
I mean, they're like, either way, they're meant to come in your life for some sort of like learning lesson, you know, and you can either hang with it as long as you want, or you could take it for what it was and you know, check you later and keep it moving, you know. And you know, you do hear stories of people getting hit with the reality of chondros after a handful of years, and they just don't want nothing to do with reptiles, period, you know. So it's good to see that you're just like, you know, like you said, it was a big chapter of your life, but now, you know, the reason why you're here on this podcast, based on what I'm being heard, is your gecko game. You know, you're tapped in with some lizard species as well. So, you know, Kurt, to lead up to right now, you know, like what's the foundation production for you going for you right now?
It's probably a pretty even split between geckos and monitors. So I work with a lot of the New Caledonian species of geckos, a lot of Australian species of geckos, and then I'm working with the Varanus pilbrensis, so the Pilbara rock monitors. I've been working with them for almost maybe 8 to 9 years now. I've been keeping and breeding those guys, and then in the past few years, I've gotten into tree monitors and did kind of have really buckled down heavily with tree monitors. And
I'm obsessed, bro. I'm obsessed. I mean, I'm gonna do my best to not try to keep you wrapped around this topic, but the tree monitors, man, like, here's the thing, dude. Like, I'm coming from the ball python game, right? Like, my biggest foundation of what I do was based off ball pythons, and I always wanted more. Not that ball pythons isn't enough, but like, you know, ball pythons is structured to make me money, you know, and I'm okay with that. But I like stuff that's a challenge, to where like if I'm successful at it, I don't even fuck about the money. I don't care about selling it. This is like something I'm willing to hoard type of thing, right? But at the end of the day, like I have a certain appreciation for these type of things, all because of the ball pythons, and that's always been like, I always have ball pythons no matter what's going on in my life. You know, that was my first pet snake as a kid, ball python. You know, I always remember that. But you get into the monitors after so long having snakes, and you just really see this whole different reptile Like, I'm talking about something that knows you're there. It's fucking like, it gives you like they're not idiots. And not to say that snakes are idiots. They just don't like, they're just more don't give a fuck, want anything to do with you. Where a monitor that's bold, a monitor that trusts you is like a fucking dog. It's crazy. I'm obsessed. And you know, there's
levels to the game. Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? So right now, you know, I have the bell phase. I have a couple pairs of bell phase monitors, which I love them to death. You know, there maybe a couple scenarios where they acted skittish, and it was a kind of a struggle to like get them to snap out of it. But there was nothing. That was when they were younger. But the tree monitors, right? Like the tree monitors, definitely a lot more like, you know, I don't want to say. I mean, the male's coming around, but the female like does not like to eat off forceps. She's very like, you know. The trust is not, you know, she makes it known that, yeah, I don't trust you like this guy trusts you, and it ain't gonna be that easy. But I like that. I fucking appreciate that she don't like that she don't trust me, and I'm kind of seeking to get her to trust me, you know, and I feel like that's. I wish I kind of like saw that kind of value in a snake, and I just don't. Like I'm obsessed with the monitors, bro. Like, I mean, I can't keep them like how I keep snakes. That's not feasible. I mean, I respect what it takes to keep a monitor. You got to give them space, a lot of space, and they fucking eat. You know what I'm saying? They like to eat. So it's work, you know? So I don't know. Anyways, the tree monitors, I'm right there with you. What species of tree monitors are you currently working with right now?
I got into it, but that was pretty choppy on my end, by the way. So if I'm chopping up, just let me know and I'll bounce out. Can you hear me?
You're good.
Cool. So I kind of got into it. You know, the yellows really drew me in, but I had a really unique opportunity to get a group of legit captive bred blues. So I snagged them when I had the chance. And then I ended up snagging a couple pairs of yellows that, you know, were also captive bred. And so I got really lucky in that respect that I was able to start with legit captive bred animals. And I started producing them. I ended up producing 39 of them last year between the blues and the yellows. And I kind of went into it with the mindset of like, all right, you know, I'm going to try these out and see how I do and kind of take it from there before like jumping full in. And, you know, it's a species that I know I was able to do successfully. So I'm very grateful for that and had a good season with them last year. And, you know, we've got eggs cooking now, but for now it's just the blues and the yellows. So.
Okay, if you could do me a favor, Bryan, because shout out to one of my mentors who, like, you know, this guy just geeks the fuck out of monitors and knows a lot about the behavioral stuff and whatnot. But if you could kind of like explain to us exactly behavioral type of things you see during breeding, like for instance, like, you know, you have a pair that are paired up and you see courting and whatnot, but you know, the digging, right? Like I noticed there's test digging and whatnot. But how do you know like that she's digging for real? Like, is there a certain point or a certain attitude that she starts to create when you know that this digging is going to lead into her laying or whatnot?
I found that it's kind of like you know, every animal's different.
Right.
They're really picky as far as lay sites. So having a lay site is key because she can dig all day, but if she's not happy with her nesting site, it's not going to be good for you or her. So let's say making sure that you've got, you know, the proper nest box set up and substrate set up in there and temps. You know, there's a lot that kind of goes into it with them in that respect. But once, you know, it's a fine balance because you get excited when you see them digging. And, you know, like you may have witnessed some copulations, you know, in the past few months and you're like, oh man, this is it. And then she comes out of there and you want to jump the gun and check the nest box and see if you've got eggs. And sometimes I can throw them for a loop, especially if it's like a real timid female, like the one you were talking about that like doesn't trust you. I have a female that doesn't care. I mean, she'll hop on me while I'm like sitting there working with other animals. She'll hang, you know, she does not care about anything. So me spooking her nesting doesn't really matter. Right. But I would say it's like, you know, keeping an eye on them and paying attention to the belly. You know, when she comes out looking like a deflated bike tire, you know that it's safe to get in there. And if you are like, you know, one little thing that I've kind of found to be helpful, and if you have a female that is really nervous, is wait till the lights go off. When she's kind of in her little roost, she's sleeping for the evening, and you can quietly go in there with a dim headlamp and you can check so that she's not sitting there watching you and observing what you're doing. She's kind of KO'd for the night, you know?
So with that being said, Bryan, like, you know, I found a window when I could check and she doesn't give a fuck, right? Because it's typically in the morning. Like she kind of sees me, but she don't care. Like she's just like knocked out, right? And it's funny you said that. Like, you know, I jumped the gun about 3 weeks ago because she had these holes in the nest box and, you know, these perfect tunnels, and I was like, holy shit, like this looks crazy. And then, you know, at that time I pulled the male because I did see some courting, and last time I didn't pull the male and she laid him in the corkwood, you know, and I was trying to avoid any kind of stress like that. So I pulled the male, and then literally 3 days later, these holes seem to be covered up. And I was told that when they lay, that they will like cover up the holes like if nothing's there. I don't know. And so when I noticed that these holes I was checking on were no longer there, and the area I was looking at, I was like, and she had dirt all over her. The thing is, she didn't look like a fucking wet sock or anything, or she didn't look like a damn flat tire. You know, I didn't really know what she looked like. She looked like she was covered in dirt. But I fucking went through that whole box and there was no eggs. You know, there was these perfect tunnels. There was perfect tunnels leading all the way down towards where the heat pad's at, but there was no eggs. And so I fucking panicked, and I was like, oh great, like I fucked this all up. So, you know, I repadded and compacted the dirt, and now we're just back to there being holes in there again, and they're just not covered up. There's like maybe a few tunnels in her nest box right now. So
yeah.
And
Is the male still in there with her?
Say that again.
The male still in there with her?
The male's been out. That's why I feel like maybe I pulled him out too soon. Like that's why I don't know if I should put him back in with her. You know, I'm not too sure what I should do right now as far as with the male or with her. Like I do know she don't look skinny. Like she looks like she has something on her belly. Like she has that little roundingness. You know, I just don't. You know, I don't know. I just don't know, bro. Like I'm trying to.
The digging's a good sign for sure, and I think it's good that you got the male out of there. So you know, just do what you can and, you know, observe and go from there. I do want to say too, you know, getting into the tree monitors, I did a lot of digging and picking in a couple guys' brains who I respect a lot. One, of course, is Brandon Van Asten up at Canadian Cold Blood. You know, him and Hai and Yoen from Naked Dragons. Both of those guys were so kind, so patient in dealing with a lot of questions when I was starting out with them. And so, you know, hats off to both of those guys for kind of paving the way with a lot of the stuff with tree monitors. And I've actually become really good buddies with Brandon now. And so we shoot the breeze all the time and bounce ideas off each other. And, but yeah, just wanted to throw that out there.
You want to talk about legend in the green tree, or excuse me, you want to talk about legend in the tree monitor game? Brandon Van Asten, definitely my biggest heroes. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. Him and his fam came down here a few weeks ago and stayed at the place and checked out the collection. So it was good having them down and actually meeting them in person. Been like talking to them for years, but it's good to finally meet them. So
to kind of go back to, you know, the male being pulled from the female, if you were in my position, and, you know, for instance, no eggs are ever laid, when would you put the male back in, or when do you feel comfortable reintroducing the male to her?
So you witnessed them lock up?
I don't want to. Okay, like she laid in January, right? She dropped eggs in January, and they were infertile. There was nothing, right? And so about a month ago or so, they were kind of. I don't want to say I saw a lock, but they were doing the motions. We're chasing around, and like, you know, I just really wasn't messing with them. So I can't say I saw a lock. I really can't say.
After you got the eggs in January, was the male in with her immediately?
Yeah, he never pulled. I never pulled them at all. Never pulled them.
Yeah, it's a tough call. It's a tough call if you didn't witness a lock. You you know, some males are just crazy breeders, and you know, you can witness it. I mean, it's super helpful when you see that. If you see them locked up like several times, and then, you know, a couple months go by, like I kind of like, so after a female lays for me, like I'll give the female a little bit of time just to herself and really beef her back up, and then I'll introduce that male. And at that point, you know, usually you're witnessing some copulations at that point. And then once a couple months go by and you see that like there's been locks,
right,
that's when I'm gonna, you know, I want to yank him. But some people keep males in, and it's just, for me, I like to give her space.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely want to be on that tip where I'm like, you know, giving her space when it's game time. And to go back to when she initially laid earlier in the year, there was a lot of copulation going on. Like I saw him like put like multiple times. I saw him like hammering her, and I was like, oh shit, you know. And this time around, I didn't see any of that, you know. So I do know that he's gonna do it. Like he'll do it in the open, and I just didn't see any of that aggression of breeding on that side of him this time. So I don't know. I mean, I'm like, that's why I'm feeling like maybe since I didn't see any of that, I should have never pulled him. But based off all the digging and stuff like that, I mean, I was just told that, you know, I don't fucking know. This is a hard thing I'm trying to figure out right now. I'm not gonna lie, this is tough.
I think you're on the right track. I mean, the fact that she's digging, you know, that's good news. And, you know, just keep her well fed and see what happens. You know,
now,
worst case scenario, you get, and keep this in mind too. Like I noticed with, you know, so last year I did 3 pairings, 2 blues and 1 yellow, and the first couple clutches were not good with those animals, and they were first-time breeders. The females had never been bred before, and I was starting to lose it because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's when I was like bothering Brandon and Haya quite a bit. I'm like, what's going on? What am I doing wrong? There's got to be something. And they just needed to get it through their system, you know. I feel like before they really figured it out. So I wouldn't worry too much yet. The fact that you got some eggs and you're witnessing locks, that's all good news. So
for the time being, I know I don't want to be a broken record, but the male, leave him be for now. It's separated in the time being. You would suggest, or what would you say about that?
Yeah, you said the clutch was in January.
Yeah, she laid in
January.
Yeah.
So February, March. Yeah, I think it's a tough call. If I didn't see a male locking up, then I might want to leave him in. But, you know, again, it's like January, so you got February, March. Now we're mid-April. I mean, he might have had time to get it done. That's a tough call, man.
I mean, they spent so much time in the corkwood to, like, I mean, I know they were like really comfortable with each other a lot. I just didn't see any of the kind of fucking humping that I was seeing in like earlier of the year. You know what I'm saying? Where he was literally chasing her around and like, you know, literally like in there. And I'm like, holy shit, it's going down, you know? So I don't know. God damn.
If she's super swollen and she's doing a lot of digging, just leave it be.
What about the food intake? Because I was going to ask you that too, because she's not, I don't want to say she's a skittish eater, but she's not the most bold eater. And right now she's a very bold eater. So do they typically become bold eaters before or after they drop?
You know, before, like leading up, well, like my females will eat pretty heavily throughout. There is a time period that they'll hit where they'll stop a little bit, but then I haven't noticed like a full-on pattern where like they're not eating at all. And if it is, I don't have it fully dialed in as far as that, an answer to that. So I don't really have the best answer for you on that.
If I could ask you though, like you said, there's a time frame where some of them might shut off food for a little bit, and are you noticing that before they lay or while they're getting, you know, locked, or like when does that normally happen when they do typically shut off food?
It is before they lay, but I wouldn't say it's like, oh, she's not eating, this is the time she's going to lay, because I've had females eating right up to their lay period as well. I have a female right now who's an absolute pain in the ass nester. I've got 2 separate nest boxes in there for her, and she's never happy with her nesting site. So, but she's been digging super full. She's got eggs in her. She's still pounding food and she's digging all the time. She's giving me a headache too. So, you know, I'm right there with you on that one with your girl. I'm going through a similar issue with this female because she always gives me issues. But then you can have other females like my other blue and my yellow from last season. They just pump consistently. No BS. Yeah.
What does a female do to let you know that she's not happy with her nesting? Like what are some things you're looking for to know that?
You'll see eggs in the cork tube. You'll see eggs scattered around. Yeah. You'll see eggs scattered around the cage. You know, I've had them go into the nest box and lay them on top of the substrate, you know, but ideally you want them to go down, dig their tunnels, lay their eggs, cap it, you know, come back out, cap it off, and then you dig down and you find the eggs nicely how you want to find them. But like I said, this one particular female is an absolute pain in the butt, and just, she's, you know, hopefully, you know, I'm expecting eggs any day from her. So we'll see what happens with her this time.
We're literally on the same boat, literally.
Yeah, it can be troublesome.
Yeah. Oh, you know, at the end of the day, this is what makes me love that I'm in a project like this. You know, it could be, the thing is, it's like the what if, like, right? Like there could be a heartbreaking end to this, like big time. You know, you just don't know, right? But you know, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. At the end of the day, like that fact that she had already laid eggs for me before, I know that she is in a place where it could go down. But you know, the reason why it went down the way it did is because my nesting was all fucked up for her and it got flooded and it was soaked with water. And that's why that happened. This time around, none of that's going down. You know what I'm saying? It's completely different. I even have a heat pad. She's even digging where the heat's at. So like, I could totally tell that the heat pad's good. Like that's like a crude, they dig towards the heat for sure. So to have that, I feel like that was, I think Mike Stefani gave me the tip on that heat pad thing on the side of the nest box. But anyways, yeah, man, day by day, man, this is just definitely something I'm learning. I'm learning more and more about these species every day as I go along. And I only have the green tree. I would love to have yellows, the blues, blacks. I mean, the tree monitor in general is just an amazing species of lizard. Like I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, they're incredible.
I
was going to keep one animal. If I had to get rid of everything, it would be one tree monitor. I don't care which one it is, any species. Just give me one, and that'd be it. You know, I'd give it an enclosure the size of a bedroom and just call it a day.
So how did you, I mean, how many of the 39 or how many monitors did you produce last year? Tree monitors? You said 39, 39, right? How many of those did you hold back, and how many of those actually went off to customers?
I held back 4, 2 female blues, one female from each pairing, and then 2 female yellows.
Wow. Damn. Okay. And for the most part, I mean, you sell at shows, or how are you selling your tree monitors?
Most of it was online. You know, I do a lot through the social webs on my Facebook and Instagram, and then I have a website. So I think I brought some to Tinley back in October, and moved a couple there. But for the most part, like the blues and the yellows, you know, that sort of stuff, when you get into kind of the higher end animals, it's like people find you, you know, you don't really, so, but yeah, it was a good season.
So, I mean, as far as the established, you know, like the egg thing, right? You know, how many times have you gotten eggs that were laid scattered across the enclosure that actually made it? You know, I mean, does it mean when they lay like that egg's not going to go, or does that mean that, you know, it just all comes down to the luck, or what does that usually mean?
You got to like, so it does not mean that the eggs are bad if they do that. At least in my experience, it's again, my experience all boils down to this one problematic female. But I did find a clutch from her that she had kind of scattered. She'd laid some in the nest box. I found a couple out and I gathered them. There was like 1 to 2 that was no good, but I ended up hatching out babies from the other eggs. So it doesn't mean it's, you know, necessarily a death sentence. You just want to catch it early in the morning. So like for you with your girl, if she is going into that box and, you know, maybe she's happy with it, maybe she's not, I would just check first thing in the morning, because you don't want the eggs to be laid there and you have a day where you sleep in, you get up later, or you run to work and then you come back at 3 and the eggs have been sitting out all day and then they're desiccated and then they're toast.
Yeah, I mean, from based off what I'm seeing her habits are, she, I wake up pretty early in the morning, right? So I come in this room and I'll inspect and see her where she's sleeping and then be working in the room. And then like around 7 a.m. or like earlier in the morning, she'll come out, like she'll go from being wherever she is inside the corkwood, and then she goes into the nest box and does her digging in the morning. And then she comes out when I turn the lights on, and then that's when she's just covered in dirt, and I'm just like, what the fuck, But she doesn't look like she's empty at all. So
yeah,
day by day.
It can be tricky too. Like I did get fooled with this last clutch of blues that I have cooking right now. I thought the female did not lay because she had a little bit of sag to her belly. She didn't look as deflated as other females had in the past, and I just happened to check, and there was 5 eggs in there. So,
whoa,
it's. I wish I could give you like an exact, oh yeah, this is it. This means you have eggs, but I've been fooled, So,
because I mean, even in this pic, right? Look, she doesn't look that fucking empty, and this is the female that you pulled the eggs from, right?
Correct. Yeah, those were just dug up. She laid those the night or the day before, and I came in that morning and dug them up.
I've seen them look way more flat than this. Like she doesn't look like she's that like skinny at all.
You're 100% correct. Right. She was more plump than that, but like I said, yeah, it's tricky.
God damn. Now one thing I was nerding out about when I had Brandon on the show last time was his switching over to just basically primarily feeding his green tree monitors crickets. Are you on that same tip, or what's your dieting for the green, or for the, I keep saying green tree, but for your tree monitors, what's your typical diet like for yours?
Yeah, so that's funny because we were having a lot of conversations about that prior to that episode, and I start, since I got them, like I'm from the mindset where, like, for me, I kind of try to avoid a lot of rodents, and I have always. I used to work at a facility where we had a massive reptile collection, and I was able to kind of see just over time with a lot of our monitors that were fed primarily rodents. They got some quail as well, but they ended up being really kind of bigger, chunkier, more lethargic. And I'm always of like the mind frame of keeping things like a little bit more lean. So I've always since the day I got my monitors, which I think was about 3 years ago, at 3.5 years to 4 years, I've pretty much only fed insects and quail, egg, and only very rarely rodents. And so Brandon and I were having a lot of conversations about that. He was hitting me up because he was doing a lot of heavier rodents, but he was kicking butt, and the guys produced a ton of animals with it. But he's kind of been going through and checking things out, revamping things like we all should, and kind of analyze what we're doing. Do we need to make changes? Like, I think as keepers, we all do that. And if we're not doing that, it's a good way to get left in the dust. So, we were picking each other's brain, and he was specifically asking me about dietary stuff and what I primarily feed with the insects. And, I think it's the way to go for me personally. And so, Brandon did some further digging and pulled up some publications that showed, a lot of katydids and orthopterans, which are your crickets, grasshoppers, katydids, are a big primary food source for them. So, that, and I also look at tree monitors and I think, okay, they're living in an area that's equatorial, so it's warm all year round. So for seasonality with nesting of things like birds, they're nesting all season long. It's not here in the mountains of North Carolina where birds are just now arriving from South America, Mexico. They're coming up here. They're just now starting to find mates. They're going to soon build nests. And then all these snakes, like black rat snakes and racers and so forth, they're going to be queuing in on these nests, feeding on babies, feeding on eggs. and it's this big boom where they have this time frame where they need to get these nests. But in PNG, little islands around PNG like Batanta, Missoula, all these places where these animals are found, they literally have a nesting season for birds that is year round. So that was kind of my logic, was like the insects, and then if I'm going to do anything that's more meatier, I try to go into quail. I love doing day-old quail and eggs.
What about ground turkey?
I've never done it.
My
I'm not saying it's bad. I just have never done it.
No, well, here's the thing, because like I before the Brandon episode, you know, I was once a week or twice a week was giving them either like a fuzzy or a pinky mouse. Like I was giving them rodents, like, you know, like at least weekly, right? But then I would notice that the female wouldn't even want anything to do. Like she would eat it, but secretly, you know. But the one thing she loved taking off the forceps was the ground turkey. And that's like her fucking what she loves. Like I mix it up with some egg and whatnot, and I noticed she just goes to town on ground turkey. I eliminated the rodent. I don't feed them no more rodent. I do give them primarily crickets, but once a week, just because I'm American and you know they're fat. I gotta give them their treat. You know, like if she likes it, it makes me happy. You know, so I don't know. We'll see how that goes. It's organic.
People do that with everything, man. Dogs, cats, they're reptiles. So, you know,
turkey's a bird, but turkey's a bird though. So that, I mean, I'm on it, you know.
For sure. And you'll find that like certain animals will hold out. I mean, I had an animal that I got in that was a long-term captive. It was a yellow female and super picky with food. And, you know, wouldn't touch a lot of the stuff I was offering her. And if you threw mice in there, boy, she pounded. And it's like she would hold out with everything else. So almost with some of them, I almost like would just, okay, this is what you're getting. This is what I'm going to offer you because it's what I want you feeding on. And man, they'll hold out. You know, they'll skip some feedings and they won't take that stuff. But you know, they're weird. I have a male that like was pounding quail, stopped eating quail. It was a blue tree, and just wouldn't eat quail for like 8 months. And then all of a sudden, boom, loves them, goes nuts for them, will chase me around the room for them. So it's interesting with the food items. And there's a lot of options. And, you know, like I said, for a long time, from what Brandon was telling me, is he was doing a lot of rodents and was breeding a lot of animals. So, but I don't know if that's, you know, I'm sticking more with insects, and I know Brandon is now, and I like doing the quail. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you can't go wrong with either insect or quail because, like you said, that's the primary source of what's happening around them. And I can tell you one thing that I've seen before, and I hope I never see again, is an obese, fat blue tree monitor at the San Diego Zoo. I was like, dude, it can't be that big. I couldn't believe how big it was. And it was just chilling on a fucking log, and it looked like a goddamn water monitor. I was like, dude, this thing it was ginormous. Like I couldn't believe how big it was. And I wasn't merely like tripping out on the length. I was talking about how big the belly was. I was like, dude, this thing is fucking huge. And I'm pretty sure all they do is toss rodents to it at the zoo, I'm assuming.
Right. Yeah. You don't want a fat tree monitor.
No, yeah. They're not meant to be fat and lazy. They're meant to be alert and on top of their shit. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, and that's more of a kind of animal you should want versus something that doesn't know where it's at, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I got to ask you, what's it like? What's it going to look like this year, production wise? I'm curious. Are you looking to surpass the 39 tree monitors that you did last year? Or are you going to hold back this year? What's going on this year?
No, I don't think I'll surpass that because I made a big mistake, which was in the wintertime. Like I was waiting on a cage order. I use AP cages. I love that company, but as a lot of people know, you know, they're slammed with orders and their turnaround time takes a very long time. And I ended up finding myself in a little bit of a caging crisis, and I kind of got stuck with animals that I couldn't ship out. So I did not pair up. I didn't repair a good number, like the 3 pairs that I had, because I was sitting on a good amount of babies. And that is biting me in the ass now, because I'm just, you know, I just started getting my clutches, but I should have had, you know, if I would have kept going with my cycles, then yeah, I could have been on par to beat last year, but I gave them all a break. and didn't pair anything up until maybe January. And they went a good 3-4 months, like a cycle or two before that, where I just separated them, didn't put them back together, didn't want to breed them because I'm like, I've got a ton of babies, I've got a ton of eggs in the incubator, and I'm like in this problem with caging, and I couldn't find caging. And so I stopped, and now I put everybody together in January. So stuff has just started cycling, and that kind of threw some of them off of their cycle. But I've got a clutch of blues, a clutch of yellows that are cooking right now that both look really good. And
Nice.
I've got everybody going back into their normal cycle now. So hopefully things will start swinging, but it definitely delayed me and kind of threw off my schedule, their schedule. So, but it'll catch back up, and I think it'll go even better, this next season, because I've got a pair of each more going. I'm going to have, a few pairs of blues and a couple pairs of yellows going. So it should be good.
I mean, let's kind of talk about the incubation real quick. As far as, there's certain preference on temperatures from what I've heard and whatnot. And then, I've also heard a lot of things could go down too, like things could go from looking good to just like straight shit at certain points. For you, if you know that the eggs are fertile, do you usually have any issues, like run into any problems, or is it usually a go for you? And if you don't mind telling me like what your incubation temperatures are when you're cooking your eggs.
Yeah. Once you get fertile eggs that are, for sure good, they're usually pretty durable. And I would say, so I've done mine at 85 degrees, which was mostly information that I had gathered from other breeders like Brandon and and a couple other sources. And, there's some literature out there as well that kind of shows ranges. So that's kind of been, once you get good eggs, and they're, I think some folks do them a little bit cooler, maybe in the lower 80s, but I just haven't done it because I know it works. Whether or not there's like any sort of like TSD, temperature sex determination with it, I don't know. I don't know if there's any information on that out there. It's like lots of times when you find a formula that's working really good, you don't necessarily want to mess it up and start tinkering around with things, especially when it comes to tree monitors. But it's something that, I hope some people do in the future, and I'd like to do, because I definitely ended up, at least last year, pretty female heavy. So, but that was like a straight cook at like 85, maybe a degree drop at night. So.
Wow. Okay. And then usually around what day are you seeing pips?
Usually like around, like I'm usually at around like 5, like around 148, 150, around there, 150 days. Yeah.
Okay. And how many, like for instance, a female laid for you about how many times last year on the average?
I'd have to go back. Normally it's about every 3 to 4 months.
Right. So about 2
when they would cycle.
Yeah. Wow. That's and that's, and here's the thing a lot of people don't understand. If a female is dialed in and she's comfortable, she likes the nest box, dude, it's like clockwork the way they lay, from what I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It was so much to the point where I had kind of had like I needed to take a break and had enough and stopped.
Oh, I want that problem. What the fuck? Like, I mean, no offense. I'm just saying, like, what, dude? Like, that's just so sick to be like, I'm hatching too many tree monitors out.
It was ridiculous. It was a good year. Last year was a crazy year for everything. I mean, the amount of different species that hatched out was awesome. It was an epic year. So 2021 is going to be hard to beat.
You never know, man. Set the bar, baby. I feel like it's it's just all based off your performance. You obviously had an amazing performance last year.
Yeah, I feel grateful for it, and again, grateful to some good people who have been paving the way. So hats off to a lot of those guys who've been doing it before all of us. So
let's kind of talk about what that was able, like, for instance, obviously you sold a good amount of tree monitors that probably funded something else that you're probably passionate about, right? Or what exactly did you do, or what is it that you like to do when you have like a good year and something like that? Like, do you like to invest that in another project? Do you like to invest it into like crypto, or like what exactly you like to do with like your monopoly money, as I like to call it, because that's what it is. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good question. I did purchase some animals last year that were like, you know, kind of like little keystone rocks and keys that just fit into places, like little gaps that I needed in the collection. Like I was short on some males and a couple species, and got that I, you know, that helped to fund. And, you know, to be honest, it paid me back from the initial investment that I put into the tree monitor project, because I spent a ton of money getting into them, and with the caging, and had, you know, a room that I had built out dedicated to them. So I was in the hole quite a bit. So yeah, most of that money was to pay myself back with what I invested, because I invested a lot into that. The overflow, kind of since I've been a kid, along with the reptiles and amphibians, I've been an orchid nut. So this year I'm trying to get a greenhouse going, and that'll be my happy place where I can, you know, just hang out, have morning coffee, and be surrounded by orchids. So that's my jam.
Something about greenery, and I'm not talking about the stuff that I smoke. I mean, even though that does keep me like happy, but like a greenhouse is definitely a high goal of mine someday. Like, and you know, as much as I love animals and I love the farm life, something about just walking into a greenhouse full of just amazing plants it just sounds so dreamy, you know, like it just,
yeah. It'd be ultimate to be able to do your reptiles in a greenhouse, because sometimes when you're indoors and you're putting in hours, like with the collection that I have, I put a lot of time in there. I've got, you know, employees that help me out, and you put a lot of time in there. And when you're stacked floor to ceiling with enclosures, there's not really a lot of natural light that's in there, so it can get pretty difficult. But man, I was thinking, like, what if you blew the roof off of that thing and you put, you know, some polycarbonate or glass on there, so you were letting in light, and you know, you could have yourself a greenhouse with reptiles in it.
You follow this guy from France? This guy from he's
I believe so.
Dude, so check this out. He has something really similar, like pretty close to what we're talking about, because this is actually inside his tree monitor room right here.
Oh, nice. Little skylights. That's the way.
And then if you look at his enclosures too, which I'm obsessed, like he has plants like that he just pulls out of all these enclosures right here.
Wow.
So yeah, that's cool someday.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool.
So, all right. I mean, other than, you know, I would love to just keep this topic on tree monitors going, but you obviously have passions elsewhere. You're good at other types of breeding species like the geckos, right? Your geckos is a big part of your game plan that you have going on, right?
Yes.
And what species of geckos are you more, you know, passionate about? What is the prime ingredient when it comes to geckos for you?
Yeah, so probably the two main species, like I work with a lot of different species. The two that kind of take the cake as far as what I'm most known for are the northern spiny-tailed geckos, which are the Strophaurus ciliaris.
This one right here?
Let's see, the one with the white background.
The white, this one right here.
Yeah, with that orange tail. Yeah.
This one? Whoa, that is fucking sick looking. Wow.
It's so badass. It is a dragon. It's a mini dragon. That's my favorite gecko species.
Dude, that is so neat.
Yeah. They've got, you know, what's crazy too is their defense mechanisms. If something goes after them, you know, out in the wild, they don't do it to you in captivity unless you really irk them wrong or accidentally pinch their tail on something. But they've got these little pores in their tail that they can spray out this sticky glue that smells like a stink bug.
Right.
And it's just a really cool defense mechanism. They'll raise that tail up over their back and can spray it. There's some cool YouTube videos that you can see of different species.
I've seen a picture of that before, of one of these lizards spraying that shit out of their tails. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that's the genus Strophaurus. I only work with that species now. Just because they're like a lot of the stuff I work with, it's usually something that's variable. It has to be polymorphic. So with these, you can get all different sorts of colorations: high black, high orange, high yellow. So they've got those eye spines that, you know, they just look like miniature dragons. So I love them. And the other species that I'm most known for are the Chahoua, which are just, you know,
right here. Am I tripping?
correct. Yeah.
Wow.
And I only work with the Pine Island form, but that's a species that is just, I'm probably, you know, is one of my specialties that I kind of focus on and dominates my collection. So yeah, those are another incredible species that come in all different sorts of colors. If you click out of that and zoom or scroll up, there is a photo, or actually, yeah, oh, that's a video. Never mind. But they come in all different sorts of colors.
That's
so
right here?
yeah, I mean, you've got whites, green.
Dude, that is sick. Oh, the green one. Wow, that is so sick.
You'd be proud of that name, MJ. That's skunk right there. I got another one named Kush. So we got a couple buddies for you.
What's up with the breeding project on skunk? I want in. That's amazing, bro.
His offspring, Turbo Skunk. You know.
Turbo skunk. Wow.
But yeah, just a ton of variation in the color with this species, which is one of the things that, you know, I really love about them. There's been a real big push to getting high white animals. Those are a couple of Australian species of leaftail. That's the rough-throated leaftail on the left, the riverine leaftail on the right. Both of those are really cool.
I mean, how many people out there are actually breeding stuff like this? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how niche of a market this is.
There's a good amount of people breeding the New Caledonian stuff, less so of the Australian species. Both of those that are up on that photo are extremely easy to care for. So a lot of people are kind of working with those more and are having a lot of success. They breed very well, very readily. And they're, you know, like a lot of people think when they think of leaftails, they think of like the Madagascan species, which are a lot more temperamental, more finicky. You know, they'll drop on you out of nowhere. These guys are kind of like they're just way more durable. They're more, yeah. So they're very common now, as far as like, I shouldn't say very common. They're becoming more common in the hobby.
And you know, as far as like price range goes, like, I mean, what's an average price on something like this if it was at a show or if these were available? Like, I'm just curious.
So usually, like the M. Nicola, which is the one on the right, unsexed juveniles, you're looking at around $400. The species on the left is somewhere in the $800 to $1,000 range. So, and that species on the left gets huge. They get very, very large. So
I love that. but okay, now there's a whole different, you know, price market, you know, when it comes to these being adults, right? And if you wanted to purchase these that are like ready to breed, I mean, the price would be a whole different ballgame, I'm assuming, right?
Correct.
Okay. And what would that be? Just curious. Like, what would a breeding pair of these go for?
The Amnicola, the species on the right, you'd be somewhere around maybe $1,500. The species on the left, the rough-throated leaftails, maybe around $3,000 to $3,500.
Nice. Respect.
Yeah.
I mean, and then, you know, with all this being said, I mean, which one do you feel is on? I mean, which one do you feel is going to be the one that blow up quicker? You know, and not that any of them aren't going to blow up, but which one do you feel like is more going to be like the people grabber out of any of them, if you could pick?
That's a tough question. The leaftails are kind of more of like a niche species that, you know, not everybody jumps into. And I think I wonder if a lot of that is because of the Madagascan species. Like, there's a handful of people who have done really well with Madagascan species. And I feel like a long time ago they were dealing with imports, but now some real dedicated breeders out there have done a great job with them and are producing captive bred offspring. But I just wonder if that possibly scares people from some of the Aussie leaftails. But once you get into Australian species, you're kind of hooked, and either one of those are a great choice. They're both, they each have their own price point. You're looking at, again, 400 to like 800, 850, but again, they can go up. It depends on what you're trying to get. If you want a sex pair, if you want babies.
Is this a production of yours right here? This red Neo?
I can't see it.
This red Chondro right here. Oh, it's not. Oh, my bad. Did I delete it? My bad. Hold on. I'm still going through your page, geeking out. My bad.
If it's on the page, yeah, that is one of my productions.
I thought these were like no longer in your life, buddy. Now we're gonna have to talk about this. This is fucking fire right here. So
Yeah,
you
that's
still
nice.
Chondros.
Yes. So when I had kind of like gotten heavier into the geckos and started phasing out, I'd kept a handful of hatchlings that I had produced, and I'd acquired another animal that was from a friend of mine that was up in Chicago that was unrelated.
Nice.
And I kind of just kept them as like, I'll never not have chondros in my life. I need to keep them, and they're just too cool of animals. And raised them up, and they just kind of took a back seat to everything. And next thing you know, they're ready to breed. And I'm just like, didn't have, tons of expectations, as they weren't my focus anymore. And yeah, ended up
Isn't it funny, bro? Oh my god, chondros don't give a fuck about them. It's like trying to find the hot girl of your dreams. It's only gonna happen is when you don't give them any attention. You know what I'm saying? Like,
100%. You neglect them, and then they come running. Yeah, I had 2 pairs going last year and was able to get a clutch from both pairs, and there were some knockouts. Really nice stuff. I ended up moving a chunk of the babies, but I've got a core group of those offspring that are just insane.
Bro, this is fucking flame right here.
They're super dark, and they've got a lot of blue lineage in them.
Yeah, well, what's the background? Are any of these leading to Greg Maxwell's stock at all, or what's the background on these?
Man, I'd have to go through the pedigree on everybody, but one of them, like the founder, that really is like a special animal to me, was one that I had gotten when I was in high school. And I'm going to be turning 40 years old this year, and he was an animal that I got from Aaron and Buddy Goetzker at their old company called Arboreal Adventures. No longer in business, no longer dealing with chondros, but they were putting out some really crazy stuff. And I had gotten a male from them that was from this pairing of Flex and Grasshopper. And that male was awesome. Just had a lot of really nice blue highlights in him. And so he was responsible for producing some of those offspring that I held back, which then are producing the offspring now. So.
Oh man, and I have to ask you, because it's so much like, what if, with these fucking chondro eggs, and establishing this clutch that we're looking at. How did that go? Was that kind of like a walk in the park for you, or did you struggle a little bit? What was it like establishing these?
One clutch, absolutely bulletproof, pounding food. Like, I couldn't believe it. Just taking food right out the gates like it was nothing. And then the other clutch that I had was a little bit trickier, but I think out of everybody between both the clutches, I think maybe there was a couple animals that were really weak that didn't make it, but the majority of them were great feeders and did really well, and they're getting pretty big now. So they're just about to go through ontogenesis and start showing their colors. So
yeah, that's awesome. And they were born what time? They were born last year, around when?
Oh man, I'd have to look exactly and see. But, yeah.
So are they
exactly. Yeah.
If they're already going through their
they're approaching a year.
Yeah, okay, cool. I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Wow, what a trip. I mean, and what's your? I mean, obviously we can't predict the future, right? But if things were to go in the right positive direction, what's your overall goal with the chondros? You feel like, what would you like to have? What would you like to happen?
The chondros, again, I still view them, for me, as like just a side project that I enjoy because I love the species. I'm not trying to build like a massive collection of them. I see myself holding back a handful of these animals just because they're really nice. And if I can swap with somebody or acquire some stuff that's, you know, unrelated, that'd be great, you know. But it's such a pleasure now to have, like, you know, this whole testing and being able to test for Nido, because back in the day when I was in the heat of it all, that didn't exist. And now it's like, you know, it's a thing. And it was kind of an adjustment. I'm like, oh wow, I'm getting back into the world of like selling chondros and you know, potentially buying some. It's just like, yeah, things have changed since I've been gone. But it's a luxury, I feel like now. I'm glad that it was figured out at least. And so
I'm glad you said that, because like people still look at it like, oh well, it's not important. When it's like, bro, why even try to play that game when you could avoid it by finding out for sure? And I don't know how many times people have come to me because of this. You know, I would tell you like this podcast is a double-edged sword, and I'll tell you why in a second.
Yeah,
because people get all excited about chondros, which chondros are something to get excited about, but they'll fucking go hunt, and then find that ad, adult pair of chondros for sale, blah blah blah, you know, and they'll get it, no questions asked, and I'll tell them like, dude, ask for a Nido test. Like, are they willing to Nido test at least? And you know, if they're not, then maybe consider not buying that snake. Like maybe like, you know, there's always a red flag when that shit happens, I feel like. And I don't know, with chondros, I feel like you're really fucking testing yourself by just going straight to adults and trying to acquire adults versus seeing if you're at least capable of establishing a neonate first, you know. That's just how I feel. I don't want to get too
right. Yeah, there's different takes on it. I mean, I can see, you know, with a species like that takes so long to reach sexual maturity, it's people don't necessarily want to wait 5 or 6 years for a female to become ready to go. So it's tempting to want to do that. And I know some folks who've done it and have been successful going that route, but I had always started, you know, and with most of my stuff, I usually try, when the option is there, is to get stuff as babies and grow it up. But that just makes the heartbreak even worse if you raise the thing up for 6 years and then it's finally ready to go and no dice.
So, I mean, if we could just talk real right now, Bryan, what is it out of everything you work with that you look and count towards like financially the most? Like, what is it, something that you rely on the most financially out of everything you work on?
Yeah, it's been probably the geckos, and then after last year, I have to show some respect to the tree monitors as well. So, but you know, prior to the tree monitors, prior to last year's, you know, success with those, it's been geckos. The geckos have done well. I've done well with geckos, and yeah, that's kind of what I've carved a name for myself in. So,
and geckos, they obviously need to be kept in cooler temps, right? So they're not probably kept in the same room as your monitors, or are they?
It depends on the species. Some of the Aussie species like it hot, and then you've got others like some of these cave geckos that, you know, like it really cool. So it's a matter of like even finding like micro habitats in your room. So, you know, I'm lucky that I've got an outbuilding where I keep everything that's like, you know, so I'm not living amongst the animals like I used to. And so I've got, you know, different climate controlled rooms that are in my facility where I can, you know, control that main room to the desired temps that I want while still micro adjusting each of the cages to what they need. So something that's like a cooler species, you know, I'm going to be keeping it lower down to the ground, almost on the floor. Whereas something that likes it warmer, you know, I'm giving it halogen bulbs and T5 UVs and keeping them like mid-range to higher level. So the answer to that is cold and hot, depends on the species.
And, you know, no disrespect to the geckos, just so you know, man, I love them, Bryan. I mean, I do. You're awesome. But I wanted to let you know how fucking ridiculously hard it is to keep my focus right now. I can't fucking keep my eyes off your chondros, bro. Like, look at this thing. This is just so fire, bro. Like, I'm actually pissed off at all the people who referred me to you and didn't even mention anything about chondros. Nobody did. They all talked about your gecko and fucking monitor game. They didn't never once talk. Actually, I take that back. I think Alex told me. I think somebody, hold on. I think somebody told me about how you were into chondros and then something happened, you got out. Can we talk about the what happened on when you I know it might be touchy and whatnot, but like, what was it that happened that made you get out of chondros?
I had some failures back in the day. Again, I'd started with most of everything that was I bought as babies, and raised them up and put a lot of time into them. And, back then you would hear of people who have, there's names that are running through my head right now, of folks who had collections, and it was not uncommon for animals to just drop. And I can't say based off of fact or any sort of evidence, it's all a hypothesis based on what we know now about Nido, but I feel like that was something that drove a lot of people away. And I had lost a handful of my animals, to, unknown RI causes. And it just kind of was like, man, when you're working and putting the kind of money that I put into it back in the day and waiting that long, and then you're having, failures in that department, it can test you, and in reptile keeping, we all deal with failures. It's inevitable. You're going to have failures. Every species you keep, all the species that I have, I can give you some sort of failure that I've had. And I think anybody out there who's being real and honest will tell you the same thing. But with the chondros, before I had gotten into them, I grew up just I loved everything. I love it all. I'm not just a, total gecko guy. It's everything. And it had gone like geckos. It was like, since, if you were to look at a timeline, it was like snakes, geckos, and then it went like mostly chondros. And then then I went into the geckos harder. And I kind of once I realized some of the speed, once I knew I was going to be in a place settled again, I really started focusing more on geckos, and it kind of I started phasing out some of the chondros, and what I have, I've got these babies that I produced, and I'm not going to put my full focus into them. I have some, and if if they do great with me, then awesome. And I've had them for a long time. Right. I don't know exactly how old they are now, but it's, 8 years now, maybe 9, maybe more, maybe 10. I've had some of them for quite a while, but yeah, they're, so I don't know if I really answered your question.
No, you did. And I'm just curious, as far as because technically you don't know what it really was that caused whatever bad experience that you were having at that time, because it was a different era, and I mean, nowadays, if something rolls on you, it takes you 48 hours at tops to find out what happened to that snake if you have a kit and you're ready to go, which I stay on deck with the swabs. I have 50 swabs ready to go. I'm ready to rock, I don't fuck around with that. I had a chondro, and here's last year I had a chondro who got based off when I was looking, she was going to ovulate, and I was waiting for it, and then it looks, one morning I come in, she's rolled over dead, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I go and I get her tested, and she's Nido positive, and I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. So of course I test the whole room, test that male, pull the male. The male's fucking out in the trap, doing it separate from this room here. Male comes back, all 3 tests comes back negative. He doesn't have Nido, even though he was rocking and smashing with this fucking snake for I don't know how long. I think 3-4 months they were paired up, and everything was going well, from what I can see. But it, didn't show any sign of RI either. It just rolled. It just fucking came in and was dead. And I was like, what? And then this year, I have a snake, different scenario, a monoquary, who actually, was getting locked. And she had bubbles coming out of her mouth. So she had RI, right? So I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. I started tripping out, and I got her tested, and she came back negative. Thank God. I'm going to get her tested again in about 30 days, but came back negative, and she seemed to recover off of it. Okay. It seems like, I hit her with Fortaz. I have an incubation technique that I learned from Gary Shabino and Marshall Mendez that, you put the incubator for a couple of days, and it seems to kick it, and sure enough, it did. What was crazy though, I'll tell you, just recently, the last day I was gonna pull her out of the incubator, I noticed it looked like skin flap on the side of her mouth. Like it literally looked like it was a piece of her skin, and I was like, what the fuck is that? So I get like, one of those medical wooden fucking things, and I open up her mouth, and she had all this cheese shit stuck to the roof of her mouth. It was fucking disgusting. Don't know what it was, but I got a Q-tip and cleaned it all out. And it's all, the thing is, I just don't know how long it was sitting in there for. Because I never looked at her mouth. But
that was something that you'd see in animals that would have RI. I mean, I'd lost a few animals to that, like an unknown RI symptoms. And yeah, that was the worst, man. When you see an animal that has that, you just feel bad for them. It's like, damn. Yeah. Hard for him to breathe and so forth. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, I mean, she's recovered. I mean, knock on wood. The thing is, I haven't fed her yet, but she's going into shed right now, which is good, right? So we'll see what happens. I do know that I'm keeping an eye on her mouth. Her mouth is completely clean now. Her gums look good. Everything, like, I don't know if that was just aftermath and it was just sitting there from all her other bullshit that she was doing, but it was surreal, man. I couldn't believe the shit I was looking at. It was
wow.
It's the real deal shit that you really, as much as like if she does die, like I will never forget what I went through with that snake, like seeing that.
Right.
Like, what an experience. That's all I got to say. But like, I feel like a lot of people are so scared to either experience a failure or to talk about a failure that they go through this for whatever reason, but actually it makes you stronger. Like it actually progresses you into what you're doing, and it builds confidence because once you go through it, you're ready if it comes again. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know, like I feel like people shouldn't just be so scared to fuck up because it's gonna happen, like you said. Like fucking up is inevitable. Like it's gonna happen. Like, and just embrace it.
We're human. If you're gonna fail, you gotta fail forward. And it's there's a handful of species that I got, and the first time working with them, like, man, I had a hard time breeding them. I couldn't do this. You lose an animal here or there, and then it's like, and you really dial it in. And again, we're lucky in this day and age that there's a lot of people who've been doing this for a long time. A lot of old heads out there who've got some really good information, and you can pull from that. And it's not like you're starting from scratch. So you're some species, sure, there's not much known on them, but for the most part, stuff like Chondros, a lot of the guys you mentioned, like Gary and Marshall, they've been in the game for a long time, and Greg, and there's a lot of them. So we're lucky.
Now, since you have your hands dabbled in a few species here, the tree monitors for sure. I could see that being something where if you start producing those, people are going to find you, right? But a lot of people fucking produce geckos. I'm not going to say produce your specific geckos. A lot of people work with geckos. So what was it that you did to kind of brand yourself in the beginning when you started getting into the gecko game when nobody knew who you were?
I think the easiest thing to really, the most important thing is you want to get your hands on the best stock possible. It's the bottom line. You want to get the best animals you can get. It's going to be, if you're looking, depending on how you're taking it, right? If you're interested in keeping a species and you're just into it for that hobby perspective, and you want to keep something that's cool, it doesn't really matter if it's for instance, like with a Chahoua, you're looking at you could get one that's baseline for $400, or there's animals that have sold for $35,000. So you don't need to spend crazy money to get something like that. If you want to start out and get a baseline example of the species, produce them, and enjoy it that way. If you're looking at it from a business perspective, then you can go about it two ways. You can still go with, entry-level animals that you start, and you sell entry-level animals to other people. That helps build, the interest, the hobby with folks. And then, as they start keeping stuff, they want to get the next best thing. They want to get, they want to get something that's a little bit nicer, different color, so forth. It's more expensive. Or, if you're in a situation where like, yeah, man, I want to do this as a business. I want to get my hands on the best stuff that there is. You want to go at it for getting animal genetics, you can buy animals that are lower expression, phenotypes. They're not showing all these crazy traits that you want, but they're from really nice pairings that have the potential to produce that. And that can be a budget way of getting into that. Or if you got fat stacks of cash, you can just go all out and, throw the money around and get what you want, which some people do. There's different ways to go about it. So, but I got lucky with like some of the species that I was working with. I just, I got in at a good time and found a lot of people who were producing quality stuff. For the Chahoua example, I found a guy who was selling his collection, and that became a cornerstone for me. I tried to just pull from as many people as I could to get really nice stuff, and just built it up. And over time, it just kind of I've been working with the geckos. Like when I got serious back into like lizards, mostly gecko species, it was like 2011, 2010. And so, before that, I took a little break, and then it was Chondros even before that. And then, whatever.
And for the most part, your gecko sales are coming from shows online. Like where are majority of your
I've got a website, shows. I started doing some shows just because I'm in the, I'm like down in the Southeast now. So I'm hitting some of those up. Tinley Park is my home, it's back home. So every time I always go to every Tinley NARBC because my family lives 45 minutes north of there. So it's an easy thing for me to do. I get to see family and I get to go to the show. But I do online shows and social media. I get a lot of interest on social media.
Social media, man. As much as it's like, fucking damn social media. I love social media. Without it, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I feel like I would be forced to go to shows, even though there's nothing with shows that I feel like is bad. But me, with my ADD and how I love just being in the scene, I feel like I'm not ready for shows yet. I'm just too new. I want to be involved, like, you know what I'm saying? And also too, like, I'm already like accepting losses the way they come here with how I have things. Not that things are just dying on me, but like I understand how losses can come working with so many different types of species, but losses come when you travel and do shows, man. Like when you're fucking commuting and getting these things shipped to you, or you're going on road trips, and there's so many things at stake when you're doing that. And I just like, I don't see myself ever willing to risk my animals yet right now. I'm good right now. Like I just,
thank you for saying that, because that jogs a bit of my memory. I was, thinking about your question about like me kind of moving out of Chondros towards the end of me, like in the middle, like there's a good chunk of time when I was working with them where I was doing a ton of travel. I mean, I was out of the country all the time, having people take care of my stuff. And the bottom line is, yeah, you're not able to keep an eye on your animals like that. So when you are doing that sort of travel, there's going to be issues with care. Things aren't done the way you want it. You're going to do it better than anybody else. So it's just kind of the way it goes. But
so Sundown Reptiles, bros. I mean, is that like a one-man crew, or like how many people really rocking with you and helping you carry this legacy that you started?
It's I've got one part-time employee who comes a few days a week to help out, and then the majority of it is done by me. And then I've got another really skilled keeper who comes and handles the collection when I'm out of town. Nice. So kind of like 3 people, but mostly 2, me and one other person. So,
and I feel like I mean, the rate I'm going, and this especially because I travel a lot for the show, I already know like I'm better off finding someone who I can trust and get to help me, right? But it's not easy to do, bro. Like I have trust issues. A, B, I want everything done my way, which there is multiple ways of doing one thing, right? And I'm just like, fuck you. This is how I do it. But like, how did you kind of get into the mind frame of either training somebody or trusting somebody to take over the ropes, and you being okay with it and sleeping okay?
You gotta have that. You gotta. It takes a leap of faith, first of all.
Yeah.
When I go through the process of dealing with like finding an employee, I mean, it's tough. I like someone who really doesn't have a lot of knowledge about taking care of reptiles, to be honest with you. I like to be someone who doesn't come in, who like thinks they know everything and they have their way of doing things. I kind of like to start with someone from scratch. And this may sound sexist, but I do appreciate having, like, if I'm going to hire someone, historically, women have always done a better job. So I'm sexist against men in that respect.
Men are pigs. Fuck them.
I've you know, just like the team that I have right now they're 2 women and they kick butt, and they pay a lot of attention to detail on stuff. And granted, I mean, you can have issues with anybody from anywhere around, but you know, yeah, it's tough, man. You know, just you got to get a vibe off of somebody. You can tell if like they're the type of person where, like, if you go through and you're walking them through your collection, you know, if you do an interview with them and you're sitting down and they're walking through and they're taking notes, that's a good thing, right? If you have someone who's taking notes on stuff, and you can find out real quick, like if I do hire someone, there's always a trial period at the beginning,
Right.
And you can tell if they're just like, oh yeah, looking at you saying, okay, and then they don't do it. It's like, okay, you're clearly not listening or paying attention to that. And you know, again, the squad I've got right now, they're just attention to detail, and they do a great job. And I'm very grateful for the people that help me. So
at the end of the day, it's hard for anyone to love the animals the way you love your animals because they're your animals, right? But
right.
A girl, her empathy naturally is so much more genuine and bigger than a guy. And it is true. Like a girl will generally want to take care of an animal more thoroughly than a fucking brute male would. And that's just the fucking fact. And I will tell you one thing that opened my eyes is, you know, Brian Barczyk. I had a conversation with Brian Barczyk a while ago, and he had an employee who I thought, I was like, man, this must be a really good employee. But it turns out that the employee wasn't that great of an employee. He was the type of employee that couldn't notice that there was no water in the water dish, and he just skipped it, you know, like that kind of missing thing. And there are people out there who don't mean to neglect an animal. They just don't get it. Like some people just don't get it. And that's why I feel like this isn't for everybody. As much as everyone wants to get a monitor, as much as everyone wants to get a fucking snake, dude, some people can't keep simple things alive. And
that is true.
And that's and I don't care what your money is or who your connections are or who your friends are, dude. I don't give a fuck. You better be doing the research or knowing how to take care of something before you go out there and buy it. Because you know, it's easy to get anything you want on your hands on nowadays. I mean, it's out there. Like go to fucking kingsnake.com. Go to Fauna. Go to any bro. That's what led my addiction to anything but ball pythons, bro, was just finding out that you have importers that are the most piece of shit people who will just dump things on you for like, oh, you got money? Ooh, at your doorstep. And you're like, wow, cool. Yeah. It's dead though.
Jeez. That's true. That is true. I guess, you know, it just boils down to personality types of stuff, I guess. Like I keep thinking back to my comments about, like, you know, prefer like the attention to detail and being a woman, but you know, I've got some buddies who are phenomenal keepers, and it all boils down to personality. You know, if you get someone who's on it and pays attention to detail, then you know that's what you want. But
remember, we're talking the, like if we're talking the non-reptile lover compared to a guy and a girl, I would rather go with the girl. If we're talking about two people who don't give two shits about reptiles, who you feel more comfortable going with, who's gonna love the animal for it being an animal, I don't give a fuck. Call me sexist. I will go with a girl all day, every day.
I'm sitting here trying to play safe.
No, throw that shit on me. MJ, right here. Throw it on me. Right here. But, you know, I will say, though, too, man, I mean, it is case by case, bro. I mean, I don't know. It's just so tough. And, I mean, dude, guess who my best keeper is when I'm not here? Guess.
Your lady? Your wife?
My wife. And I have a handful of homies I could trust on. Nothing against them, but they ain't got shit on my wife, bro. My wife has Post-its everywhere. The whole note-taking thing, none of those fuckers ever take notes when I say, hey, I need the water. They go, My wife, she has like, when I'm not here, you'll see Post-its everywhere. Like, she just sticks them.
That's the personality you want. That is the exact personality you want. Because honestly, reptile keeping, I always say this, reptile keeping is cooking. It's following a recipe, right?
Dude, that's epic. I love it. I love to cook. I love it. That's amazing, bro.
If you write down whatever species you're keeping at your place, if you write down and you've got the care down pat and you write down notes of exactly what needs to be done, if whoever is watching your animals comes in and follows that list, it should be fine. Granted, there's little nuances like things that you learn in time, like, you know, in a cage, like for instance, I'll mount up some substrate in an area and I'll notice like I put it in one specific area so I know that if an animal goes and digs, I can see that it's been dug in. But like that comes with time. But aside from that, it is following a recipe.
Right. And sticking to it. I gotta ask you, like, what's one recipe, or I mean, I'm sorry, like, what's one thing that you have going on for you that you keep per like animal? Like, do you have an index card, or like what exactly? How are you keeping your notes per animal?
Yeah, good question. So like with a lot of my stuff that I keep, like for instance, we'll say a good number of my geckos and tree monitors, you know, especially. I've got index cards that go into a little plastic sleeve that are magnetized to the cage. So I can just plop that plastic sleeve off, pop it back on, pull the index card out. If I got a clutch of eggs, I'm writing it down. If I'm noting any breeding behavior, I'm marking it down. Anything that is significant, I'm taking notes on. The place where that lacks in my care is when I, you know, for some species, like with my gargoyle geckos that I keep communally, sometimes it can be tricky if you've got, 2 to 3 females in an enclosure per one male. It can be tricky to find out exactly who laid. So with them, my note taking is a little bit more, you know, it's a little bit difficult, right? You can see a female and tell if she laid, but sometimes like when you're doing a communal group, it can be trickier.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like it's as long as you have something in play, you know, and something that is keeping you on top of what your the due diligence needs to be for the animal. And I don't know. I love that analogy, comparing what we do with the reptiles to cooking, because it's the same shit.
Yeah, it really is. Once you get it down, I mean.
So, overall goal with the shows is what? I mean, do you have a certain amount of shows that you want to attend a year? Do you want to eventually not have to do shows? What's your overall goal at this point with shows?
You know, I've only done like prior years, I just would go to Tinley twice a year. And again, it was killing 2 birds with 1 stone, seeing family and vending. But now like my production is kicked up into a higher gear. We're doing some shows is beneficial. You know, especially like if, for instance, with some of the new Caledonian gecko species, there's such a wide spectrum and quality that you can have that determines price point, right? You can go to the, you know, you can go to your local adoption clinic and adopt a, you know, $200 dog, or you could spend 15, 25K on a dog, right? It's the same thing with a lot of these geckos. It's the same thing with chondros. It's the same thing with ball pythons. And I feel like one of the things that's most important, like that I find this super important that I think a lot of breeders don't necessarily, and again, it depends on your goals, but I think it's having that spectrum of animals so that you can have the lower end entry animals and the high end. And when you sell that low end stuff, that gets people into it. And then over time, they want to build up their collection. You know that reptiles are addicting. So if they buy a baseline chondro or a leachianus, they're going to want the, you know, they want the high blue. They want the melanistic animal. They want that next step up. Reptiles are addicting. So I feel like it's important, and it justifies your pricing at a show or online, right?
Yeah,
you're just selling high-end stuff. You're selling to a very small group of people, right? But when you're selling that wide spectrum, you're putting multiple lines out in the pond for all different people, and you're going to build clients that are going to want the higher end stuff. And that is why I do shows. So you're not always selling like the highest end stuff at a show. Tinley's different. A lot of people bring like crazy stuff to Tinley, and I've sold some really nice stuff at Tinley. But the local shows, especially in the Southeast, you know, there's a lot of people who are kind of getting into the hobby and they want some animals that, you know, are kind of more entry level. So I do a lot of the shows for those people. And, you know, again, you end up selling something to somebody, they come back the next show and they end up wanting something that's a step up and a step up and so forth.
I feel like, you know, as much as there's so much importance behind a show, right? Vendor and attendee wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what you just said is the thing that will always stick to me. And Justin Gabelka was one that told me this, because he doesn't do this anymore. I mean, not that he won't ever again, but I know he's not this year. And he used to like come all the way to Anaheim and Pomona and set up. And I'm like, dude, fuck, what a commute! Like, you know, like, and I would ask him, you know, because for the most part, Anaheim window shoppers, it's a bunch of people in Orange County, and fucking, they're not going to really buy a $7,000-$8,000 Gabelka snake. You know, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but he's not going there to fucking sell those animals. He's going there just to go there to market himself. And he doesn't go there. He basically told me he's not there to sell snakes at all. Basically, he's there to pop up shop so people just could just see what he's got going on. And for the people, I feel like if I ever vend, it's because I just want to do it for the people. One person I admire hearing stories of and seeing his setups at shows was Rico Walder. You know, like Rico had a bunch of different, you know, chondros, he had emeralds, all decked out on tables. And much as we're talking about risk and stuff like that, I mean, I don't see that being anything. Like, if I ever had my own production, I don't ever see myself going to a show. But I could see myself why I would want to go to a show, to show the people what I'm working with. Like, this is what I have on. This is my love. This is my passion. I don't give a fuck about none of it's for sale. Just look at it, and that's it. Keep it moving.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is, you know, a lot of people, when you get to meet them face to face, you establish those relationships, and they're like, hey, okay, cool. Like, you're the face behind that, you know, like, because on my social media, I don't really post a lot of photos of my face. I try to keep it about the animals, but going to those shows, you know, people put a name to the face and company to the face, and then it's like, okay, yeah, you establish a relationship and you get to kind of network in that way, which is important.
You know, it's fucked up, and I don't want to be like, you know, we were talking about like not being sexist. I might be being judgmental on this, but based off my experience, the people who don't like to show their face, for the most part, ever, are the ones that are like really hideous looking, or they're fucked up. You know what I'm saying? And it's cool to see that you're not any of that. Like, you're, you know what I mean? You got your shit together. So I can't really hold that to anyone who doesn't like to show their face out there now. So I'm going to keep that. I learned something huge off this pod. Not just this, don't get me wrong, but this was huge. And I'm going to realize not everyone's probably as fucked up. You know?
Well, hey, you know, everybody functions differently. And this is a crazy world. It's a crazy world we live in, man. And whatever people do to keep them happy and sane, I'm all for it. But I'm kind of like a camera shy guy, so whatever. It is what it is.
I would have never known. I mean, you're killing it on this podcast, by the way. This is murder. We're just shy of 2 hours. I have a wrap up question. We're not there yet, but you know, we're doing a good job. So good shit. You're killing it.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, I will say though, you know, is that being said, you know, other than shows, I mean, have you ever been not pressured, or have you ever felt like, man, I should do a YouTube, or I should do more to do exposure on what I have going on? Because I mean, the tree monitors is such a thing where I feel like people need a lot of people should be knowing what you got going on. Not that they don't, but like, I mean, have you ever felt like you should, you know, maybe do something where you could get more people tapped into what you have going on project wise?
Yes, 100%. I recently, as in the past 6 months, opened up a YouTube account for my company, Sundown. And the goal of it is simply for like it's not selfish. It's lazy purposes, I guess. You know, when you have an animal, like, and you work with as many species as I do, you answer tons of questions on care. Okay. Right. So if you look at like, that northern spiny-tailed gecko video, that's what I want to do a bunch of, are videos where I can have like, hey, MJ, you're buying a leaf-tailed gecko from me. Hey, Bryan, how do I keep this? What do I have to do? MJ, here's a link. Check out this video. Done. I don't have to sit there and write everything out or copy and paste a big, long care sheet. It's going to be something that's right there where people can see exactly what needs to be done for the basic care. There's some, there's some other folks who are doing that out there. And I think it's awesome. The more care videos that we have on specific species, it encourages people to get into the species. It shows exactly what needs to be done instead of just like, okay, yeah, so what do? You put branches here and then you got to use UV. Wait, what kind? It's like, it's all in the video. Check out the video, Right. So I want to do a lot more of those.
That's awesome. Hey guys, do me a favor. Let's all head over to YouTube right now and just mimic what I did. Let's subscribe to Sundown Reptiles and hit that notification bell for my boy right now.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
Exciting stuff. Because we need more content like that out there. I'm telling you right now. I mean, it's this stuff that's probably not as popular as it's about to be in the next few years. And this is a fact. I'm telling you right now, like the movement that the Gecko game, the ball python game that is doing is gonna fulfill all these other passionate species that a lot of people don't really work with yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I don't know. Like my buddy Andrew Acevedo is like, he's somebody who wants me to do so well by these green trees because there's not enough people producing species like this. And for me to hear how good you've been with what you got going on, I'm glad that you have a YouTube going on. This is huge. Like people, I mean, with that being said, with how much this has been growing, do you feel like you kind of get stressed out with how many questions you have to answer sometimes from random people? Or do you even get random people hitting you up that you've never even spoken to? Because I'm trying to be better by those people, but goddamn, like there's people hitting me up wanting advice that I've never even spoken to them before. And
yeah.
How do you deal with that? Just curious.
That's a good question. I struggle with that sometimes. I have a view of like, I am here 100% for the rest of your life. If you have purchased an animal from me, I'm going to give you everything that I know. I'm going to give you all of the information. I'm not holding anything back. But like to the rando who just kind of messages me like, hey, I just bought this, I just bought this Pine Island Chahoua from so-and-so, or I've got these spiny-tailed geckos that I got. How do you breed? Like, what are you doing for breeding? I'm just like, man, I try to give responses and try to be good about it because at the end of the day, a lot of those people, like you want to help people, and when you're helpful, things can come back around, and you never know. Maybe they'll come back to you at some point, but it's something that I've struggled with. I'm like, man, like there's a part of me that thinks in my head, I'm like, well, like if you bought it from so-and-so, why are you asking me? Like, why are you coming to me? Which I know it may not sound very nice, but it is a thought, if I'm being honest, that sometimes goes through my mind. I usually end up answering anyway, but it can get tiring in that respect. But I'm here for my customers 100%. And that's one of the reasons why I encourage people, if you want to buy from me, like that's what you get. You get all of my knowledge that comes with it. So
the way I look at it, there's some people you only get one shot with, right? So yeah. Why waste that shot with such a stupid fucking question or such a fucking ridiculously like request that you could easily find out elsewhere? You know what I'm saying? Or like, right. I don't know. I feel like if you're going to really want somebody's attention and time, and especially somebody you looked up to, if you're even nervous about it, then make it a fucking proper one. Like don't waste the guy's time, and don't make it seem like you're just here to fucking, just here to touch fucking dicks and be like, hey, get straight to the point. You know what I'm saying? Like, and yeah. I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of people, I mean, if it's not them wanting something, I feel like there's always a want. Like, I always feel like they want something. Like, and honestly, I feel like me being a dick to you is probably going to help you better than me helping you right now. Like, I feel like me telling you to go figure it out, or me just not, because I'm not a dick really. Like some people I am, but like I just don't respond. I'll just delete. Like there's an awesome feature. There's the unread feature? You know what the unread feature is?
I do not. Well, I know if you click on it, then it's red. But then,
so if you go back, so check this out. Oh, God bless this feature. So if you see a fucking like, especially those weird people who just give you paragraphs and you're like, I don't want to read this, but like you do, you could read it real quick, go back and swipe and hit unread, and it goes back to like you never read it, and it.
I was unaware of that.
You're welcome.
Aware of that, but yeah, thank you for that info. But no, man, I mean, it's tough because at the end of the day, like this business has now become my livelihood. And
Yes.
if I want to, like jerks and like, if you're ripping people off, get weeded out real quick in this world. Like word travels fast, and I always try to take care of my customers, and I try to like, even if some rando hits me up with a random question, I still try to help them out regardless. But yeah, I mean, since you asked the question, that's why I was saying like sometimes it does go through my mind where I'm like, man, who'd you buy this from? And but again, I try my best to be responsive to everybody.
Just stop asking me what. Just don't ask me what you should be pairing your pastel fucking ball python to, because I don't know what to tell you. That's one question. I'm just like, bro, I don't fuck. Hey man, I just got this snake. What would you put to it? The fuck? What do you want for? Like, how do I even tell? You know how many morphs are out there in this goddamn ball python world? Like, what a dumb question. I'm so sorry. God bless them.
Yeah, I feel you.
Bryan, I have a wrap-up question before we get into the hot seat questions, okay? And I'm curious because, like we were just talking about earlier just now, it's so easy to get your hands on anything right now. And I feel like a lot of people get excited. A lot of people, like I said, this podcast being a double-edged sword, it's good in a sense, but some people want to look into things and they want to bite more than they can chew, right? But if you have any kind of advice out there for anyone out there who is excited to be in this industry, right, but don't know what direction to take because they're obsessed with everything, like how would you kind of like tell them to focus or maybe kind of get a grip on, them being new or something like that? Because I can just tell you right now, there's a lot of people that just want to get into everything right off the bat. And that's not that that's not I mean, it's not impossible, but I'm just saying like, it's case by case. And I just want to know what your thoughts would be on that.
Yeah. That's like, for me, that was like high school syndrome, right? Or like grade, when I was young, like, like in an adult, like when I was young growing up, I wanted one of everything. I had like Borneo short-tailed pythons. I had a pair of rainbow boas. I had, some leaf-tailed geckos. I had this. I would say if you're looking to get into, like, if you're looking to enjoy animals, do what you want, right? But if you're looking to breed and you have interest in like starting something that's like a breeding project, or you want to start up a reptile amphibian related business, I would say start with 1 to 2 things and prove yourself out with those, give them some time. And then once you realize that you're capable of being successful with that species, then either build upon it or take the next step and try an additional species and see if you can hang with that. But that would be my best guess. Yeah.
I mean, because even if you could kind of tap on your, your high school syndrome days, I mean, was there ever a point where you pushed yourself to where you were like, fuck this? Like you almost wanted to like throw in the towel on certain species? Like, did you ever get that bad? I'm curious.
No, just because I've been a nature nut, a wildlife nut, especially reptiles, amphibians, since I can remember. So I never really wanted to give up completely. I always knew I'd be keeping to some degree. I literally like, I call upon, I don't know how old I was. I know I was young. I was grade school, where I was in my bed at night and I wrote down, I had a pen and paper and I wrote down a list, and it was all the species that I want to work with when I get older and all the species that I want to breed. And here I am doing the damn thing. So,
really? Where's that list? Do you have it?
I don't. It was like leopard geckos, bearded dragons. I don't remember the other species that I have on there. None of those I'm keeping. Badass species that I have a lot of respect for. But it was like at the time back in the day, the stuff that you could choose from was a lot thinner than what we have now.
Right.
But the moral of the story is, like pick some stuff, focus on it, and start small. And then as you get your success, then you can go from there. Otherwise, you're just going to be a collector. Like we're all collectors to a degree, but to a collector with a purpose and a vision. I
see so many different levels, right? What we were talking about earlier, there's levels to so many different things. And success, there's so many different levels of success in this hobby. There's financial success, which my ball pythons, but you want to know what I'm hopefully to be successful at is putting one of my bloodline chondros into your collection. That would make me so happy someday to do, just because I know just because after hearing what you've had to say about chondros on this podcast and knowing the shit that you've gone through and had to stick out, and you're still here to this day, even though they're on the back burner way, way, way back, you're still making shit happen with them, which, bro, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like you, but like in high school. I'm like a high school you right now.
Yeah.
I've only been in this for like 4 years. This is like literally my 4th year breeding. Like I'm not breeding, not even my 3rd year breeding, but my 4th year keeping reptiles like to this level, you know.
That's awesome.
But you know, it just keeps me so like young-minded. Like it just keeps me wanting to learn more. Like I'm finally in a position, Bryan, where I feel like I don't know it all. And I always felt like everything I did in life, like I got good enough where I felt like I knew it all, you know. And that was my enemy, you know. Like I would get all this praise on how I'm good at something, and I felt like, well, I'm already good. But you know, you should never be complacent like that. No matter what you're doing, no matter what praise you're getting, no matter who's on your dick, you should never get complacent and say, I'm good, I'm settling, especially when you're young. And I did that a lot when I was young. And here I am, like feeling like I'm just reborn into a life that I was meant to be in, and it's just happening now in my 30s, you know?
Yeah, man. Being humble is so key. I mean, you'll go nowhere without, you know, being humble in the hobby.
But what is this? What does this do? Like, no matter, okay, let's say you're somebody who's not humble and you're really wanting to be in this shit for life, bro, you're about to get humbled quick. Like you will get humbled. My freezer humbles me. You know, if I want to get humbled, I just go to my freezer and I look at fucking all the chondros that I don't want to get into detail, bro, but I have shit that keeps me humbled to this day. And my buddy Andrew is one of my most realistic homies. He tells me, enjoy everything you have right now, because tomorrow it could be gone. And that's a fact. Like I could wake up, God forbid, you know, and this shit could just be all wiped out. Or anything like life is fucked up sometimes. You feel me?
Yeah.
You just never know. And I'm at such a fucking good place in my life where I owe it all to not only my wife but to these animals. And who knows how long this wave's gonna ride for? But I'm just loving it every day. And I'm just gonna be appreciative. I'm gonna stay humble, bro. Like you got to stay humble because this shit could be gone. And
yeah. Well, the problem with that is there's a handful of really easy species to keep, and because there's a lot of people who've paved the way, you can get some noob who gets in and gets a couple of crested geckos and starts producing them, and they've got a little bit of money, so they buy some nice ones. And next thing you know, they're the ones who are on social media trying to tell everybody how things work. And you know, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you it's an interesting environment on social media with it. But yeah, as you start branching into other species, I mean, I've gotten humbled the past couple months, man. I've had some rough stuff that hit with some projects that just, you know, yeah, it's always gonna happen. It's always gonna happen.
And the more you got to play with, the more, you know, playing hurt's gonna happen, you know, and it's just, you just gotta accept it. So
100%.
Cheers to the game, bro. What an awesome fucking 2-hour podcast. We have hot seat questions. I mean, you know, listen, you're not out of it, all right. So, but definitely round 2 worthy, bro. I mean, we're gonna talk after this off the show, but this is definitely round 2 worthy. I didn't get enough. We need more of this, you know, further down. So we'll talk down the road. But let's go ahead and get this hot seat questions in for my boy Bryan. Are you ready for these hot seat questions, Bryan?
Give it to me.
All right, man. Listen, at the end of the day, the more you don't give me an explanation, the more player you are handling these hot seat questions. Just keep that in mind, okay?
You want no explanation, just quick.
If you have to explain it, I get it. But that's not the point of the hot seat questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Hot seat questions from my man Bryan, Sundown Reptiles. Frozen thought or live?
Frozen thought.
A cut or no cut?
What?
A cut or no cut? Would you cut an egg or would you never cut an egg?
Egg cut. Cut.
Red Chondro Neo or yellow Chondro Neo?
Red.
Pre-first shed meal or post-first shed meal?
Post.
Favorite substrate for a Neo Chondro?
Paper towel.
Respect. Yay imports or boo imports?
Depends on the species.
Oh, no, fuck no. It's either a yes or no. You're in charge, motherfucker. It's your call. Yay.
Chondros, no.
So, I mean, period. So, if no, like, meaning like import, yes or no. Anything. Like anything.
Oh,
yes.
shit.
Yes or no, bro. I need to know. It's like you're the governor on this right now, and this is your call. Trump took over office. He said, Bryan, it's your call right now. What are you gonna do? What is happening? Yay imports or boo imports?
I may be hypocritical, but from a conservation aspect, I'd say no imports.
Okay, but one reptile you could import today. If everything was chill, we weren't fucked up as humans, and it was all great. What's one reptile you would import from anywhere in the world right now?
Varanus bomi.
Okay, what's what's one reptile we should never import ever again?
Ball pythons.
Oh, respect. To spray a chondro or to not spray a chondro?
Spray them.
Yay sports or boo sports?
Yay sports.
Favorite sport?
Disc golf, son.
What the fuck? I'm not talking about ESPN the Ocho. I'm talking about a real sport. God. I'm just kidding. That's a sport. That's a sport. We'll give it to you. Big flexor or no flexor?
What?
Big flexor or no flexor? You flex, you don't flex.
No.
Come on. Yeah.
Big flex. There
we go. I like it. Finally. Realism. Steak or fish?
Fish.
Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Van Halen.
Nirvana or Sublime?
Sublime.
West Coast rap or East Coast rap?
West Coast.
Favorite West Coast rapper?
Ice Cube.
Respect. I like that. Favorite Friday?
After next.
Yeah, dude, I like this guy. Finally. Everyone says original, but it's not the case. After next. Thank you. Fuck. Dude, awesome. Okay, hold on. Little word association. First thing to come to mind. Milk.
Cow.
Mites.
Snakes.
Ovulation.
Chondros.
Day 60.
Chondros.
FedEx shipping.
Yeah.
First time chondro keeper.
Good luck.
Oh my God. Instagram trolls.
Get out of here. I don't know.
If you had to get rid of one platform, Bryan, if one platform had to go forever, and I mean forever, is it going to be Facebook or Instagram? Which one needs to go?
Facebook.
I agree. Hey, bro, what an episode. I got to say, this was money, man. Thank you so much for your time. What do you have to say? We had up to over 50 people at one point in this live. So shout out to all the viewers. But what do you have to show to everyone? What do you have to say to everyone showing you love tonight, man, and all your supporters out there?
Yeah, thank you guys. Without everybody, we wouldn't be doing the thing. So thanks everyone, and I hope to learn from you, and I hope that you learn something as well. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and MJ, thanks for having me out, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Like, we will tap in after this for sure, and we're going to schedule a round 2 at some point. I appreciate you so much, but that's a wrap. My boy Bryan, Sundown Reptiles, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
Happy Sunday, man. Have a good night. Later.
Yeah, have a good one.
Woo, that was heat. Thank you, guys. 2 hours of straight fucking goddamn heat. I did not expect chondros to be this heavy of topic, but I'm glad. We're always talking about chondros. But to hear about how this guy was tapped in years back, I just love this shit, man. You just never know what you're going to get on a Sunday. But anyways, if you guys happen to tap in late, cool. No big deal. Hit that like button. Shout out to my Patreon members. I'll see you guys right now on the Trap Talk Zoom session. So be ready because it's going to go down. We're going to smoke fat. I appreciate everyone so much. Hit that like button. This tomorrow is going to go down. Let's see. Hold on real quick. I got to give a shout to my homie because new breed on the block going down tomorrow night. My homie, Patrick Chung. Yeah, it's Patrick Chung, right? It's my homie, Antoine's homie. came referred from the homie Antoine, but he's going to be tapping in tomorrow night. Ball python breeder, new breeder on the block. Make sure you go down to the link, set your reminder, because that shit's going to go down. So be ready, because we're gonna get to talking on some ball pythons tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And then just so you know, this Thursday night, heavy as fuck. Yeah, you like chondros? I love chondros. But I have one of who I feel like one of the most players chondro breeders in the game coming to the Trap Talk show this Thursday night. The homie Socrates from Ari, Ellie, Max of Boreals. That's right, my best friend coming to Trap Talk this Thursday night. It's going to be so legendary. It's going to be amazing. This guy's ready to unleash some knowledge. So be ready for that. And again, thank you so much for spending your Easter here with me and the homie Bryan. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I will catch you tomorrow here on another Trap Talk session. Your boy's out. Cheers!